Hey there, Aries Ascendant. So how you doing? Hope you're well after the eclipse last night. This is a follow-on to the eclipse special from yesterday and a short forecast for you. If you've got Aries Ascendant, you might also find this useful if you've got Aries Sun. And this is created with a whole sign tropical Western model. If you follow Placidus, you might actually find that the Taurus Ascendant one suits you better. Try them both out, see which one works better. And that'll give you a really good clue as to which of my ascendant forecast suits you better in the long run. So anyway, Aries Ascendant, this is for you. So the last night's eclipse occurred in your 12th house, and it's bringing to a close all of the Pisces stuff that has been going on really for years. First of all, we had Neptune going through here, then Saturn, and while Saturn was going through here, the North Node came in too. So you've had some real heavyweights in your sign in recent history, and well over a decade. And so now this is really clearing out your 12th house. Your 12th house is all about where you surrender. It's also about your mental health. It's also about how you step out of life. By contrast, the Sun and Mercury right now are in your 6th house, and they're really trying to get you absolutely focused on the here and now. And with a Virgo 6th house, the chances are there's a very strong need for you to be quite rational and functional. And yet over the last 14 years, it's just felt like there's been so much emphasis and discomfort around your rational world, as opposed to what is truly intuitive and where you surrender. And that's obviously a very difficult lesson for someone like you to learn, because the Aries energy is all about charge. Like you make a decision, you go for it. You don't stop. You don't ask for permission. You don't hang around waiting for consensus. So you feel something, you do something. And it feels like there have been planets in the way, sort of stopping you, slowing you down, making you focus on the imaginary worlds, the past, the hurts, the self-sacrifice, all of those kinds of things. Well, that is coming to a beautiful end. I would say the most important part last night was the actual closure of this Pisces time. And now, thanks to this eclipse, we're now moving into a different blueprint for you. We're moving into more of an Aquarian way. This is actually going to take you right the way through to the next eclipse, which is happening on the 6th of February 2027. I think it's all about contribution, and it's a solar eclipse at 17 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. Now, it's not here yet, but this eclipse point has started you on the journey, and that's the most important thing. So although you're clear from a lot of the trauma, a lot of the stuff that has kept you from really making clear decisions and really feeling like you're back in charge of your life, over the next 6 months, I see this as a time of renewed agency. In particular, now that the North Node is actually in the 11th house, I think that's going to help you immensely. There is still some sensitivity there. And this is where I would recommend some form of almost final practice. I'm not saying you should meditate forever or journal forever or even do either of those things. But I think over this transition time where you're growing, because at the moment you're sort of like crossing into this new phase, you're growing, and then you're going to be ending up in this place of contribution. I actually think over the next 6 months, it's like, how can you phase out the doubts? How can you phase out the insecurities? I see this being as a time of perfecting what you've already done, getting comfortable with maybe not knowing the answer, but still taking action, and slowly emerging. Like I really see that your confidence is going to come back, but some form of grounded process would also be helpful. Something else just to observe is you've also had quite a lot of stuff going on with Chiron over the last 7 years, 6-7 years. Chiron has been in your 1st house since 2018, and now he's just going into, well, he went in recently into sign of Taurus. He's there until the 18th of September, and then he's coming back in. So, and he's going to be there until April next year. So I really feel like you've got this crossing over period where you've had a glimpse of a more confident you. You've had a glimpse of a more natural you where maybe you're out and about a lot more. I mean, Aries rising people and also Aries sun people, they tend to have quite a lot of energy, a real desire to be out and about and doing things and being outdoors and being sort of connected into, the real world, like seeing the sun, being in the fresh air, drinking water and stuff. I really think that does wonders for you. So I think over the next 6 months, it's almost like, how can you gently, and I say that because the last eclipse happened in the 12th house, how can you gently start walking forwards again? I don't think you should rush. I think you should take your time. But I think from next February next year, you're going to be in such a new place where it feels like, oh yeah, I really let go of that. So I think you're stepping out of it. What's to come, I think, is like an end of the surrendering, so that you can re-emerge and then come into this belonging. And so that's the next part of your journey. Now, Pluto has been here for quite some time in your 11th house. And now the North Node has come into the sign of Aquarius as well. It's really highlighting things to do with huge social groups, not like local social groups, not like the people that you have in your life that you've really committed to, like your bestie or your favorite osteopath or hairdresser or whatever it is, your coach. This is like the feeling of being really connected to a whole group of people, having a social vision, having a global vision, being part of something, really feeling like that sense of social belonging. Again, this isn't necessarily a comfortable thing, because for the Aries, the standard Aries person, you make your decision and then you get on with it. You don't wait for other people to say, yes, that's fine. So I think this next 6 months is about, how do you get ready for having much more of a social life? How do you prepare for managing your expectations in a global vision world, where you might be part of something and, you might have to find agreement. And so I think faced with those challenges over the next 6 months, this is where you noodle it out. This is where you start to realize, okay, well, this is coming up. I don't really do that so well. Why? And then, that question, why do I struggle a little bit with asking for permission? Or why do I struggle a little bit with waiting for other people to make a decision? Why do I struggle a little bit with feeling like I have to do something in some form of agreement? And I think, you're still like this handover phase from Pisces to Aquarius is really helpful, because there's a lot of internal access. It's like you can see all of your hidden patterns. So I really think you're surrendering to these hidden patterns so that you can emerge through these answers and then come into this place of belonging, which will be a huge contribution. Contribution is going to be a very big theme over the next 20 years or so. And it's really starting in earnest now, but really ratcheting up from February onwards. So I hope that's helpful as a little bit of a guidance point as to what things are building into your overall charts, what's being expected, what's life expecting from you. I will also say that in about 18 months time, all the contributions that you are doing are going to be felt more in your 10th house of career. So again, getting that contribution side, I think, is going to be very helpful to you. So lots of love. Have a great one. And if you'd like me to sit with you and work this out in your actual birth chart, then feel free just to book into my diary. All of my details are below. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Taurus ascendant. This is for you if you've got your ascendant or rising sign. Also, if you've got Taurus rising, this might also work well for you. I should say this is using a Western tropical whole sign model. If you, like me, use Placidus when you're looking at your charts, you might actually find, if you've got Taurus rising in a Placidus chart, you might actually find that the Gemini forecast speaks to you more. My advice is to try them both out, see which works. So this is a follow-up forecast from the previous eclipse blueprint, from the solar eclipse to this eclipse that just happened last night, the lunar eclipse. And as eclipses go, they are always linking into the next one. And so this one that's just happened on the 28th of August or 27th of August, if you're in the US, I call this the crossing because it's setting us on a new direction. It's cancelling out all that sort of Pisces stuff. Anywhere where you've had some Pisces trauma, I'll explain about that in a second. And it's setting sail into a new part of your chart, which will be landing and coming clearly into view around the 6th of February when there is an annular solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. So what do these mean? I see this as a 3-point journey. So you're at the crossing point right now. Then you're in between these two eclipses. You're going through this sort of growth process. And then when you arrive around 6th of February, you're really in a place of contribution. So where is this all happening? Let's deep dive. So a little bit about Pisces. Over the last 14 years, you've had Neptune going through this. Then more recently, you've had Saturn going through this sign. And also you have had the North Node over the last, it's 19 months ago now, because the North Node has just gone into the 10th house. Now, that's a lot of Pisces energy. Actually, during that time, you also had Chiron going through there as well. So there's been a lot going on in your 11th house, and the 11th house is where we belong to social groups. It's where we connect to people in a really, really big way. And having Neptune there, I think, would have given you probably some bad experiences, probably some feelings of, gosh, did I make a mistake? How do I know? All sorts of gaslighty, unclear situations in terms of group projects. And that can extend out to not just your close friends, but I would say your friends of friends. All networks, whilst they feel pretty good because you're a pretty social sign, came with a certain amount of confusion or subterfuge. Neptune can be a bit tricky in the 11th. Sure, on the one hand, there's this great desire to feel union with everyone. But on the other hand, if not everyone is expressing Neptune in a beautiful and uplifting way, they can really drag you down. So I think it's been a little bit like Marmite. I don't know if you have Marmite where you live, but Marmite, the strapline is you either love it or you hate it. I think you've had probably a bit of both in your 11th house. So big social reactions, big social networks, like the people that you have as colleagues at work, people that you have as online brothers and sisters, all of that stuff has come with a certain sort of attachment to indecision, unclear situations that maybe cause you difficulty. With Chiron going through there, it could have even involved a little bit of bullying or coming to terms with bullying that happened in your childhood. And then with Saturn coming through there, you might have felt that there were a lot of requirements put on you. So seeing that, I'm thinking now back to the COVID era, not exactly during COVID, but just after it, when Saturn was in there, that was the aftermath. It's like, how do I come back to life? How do I sort of re-emerge in a world that has changed? And social contract has definitely changed during that time. So this is really coming to the end of this. So, the first thing I really want to share is that the 11th house is clear now for quite some time. Your experience of it should be so much more beautiful and gratifying. Everything to do with the visions that you hold with other people is going to get crystal clear and aligned to a beautiful spiritual purpose. It's available to you now more than ever. And I think this eclipse that we've just had yesterday is leading the way on that. It's making it so much easier because, everything is falling away. All that old stuff is falling away. And now the beautiful vision of Pisces can come forwards, which is ethereal. It's a union. It's very pure, actually. And it allows us all to move on to a different phase of life. Now, you're crossing over from that. So you're experiencing that, but at the same time, you're moving forwards. And the movement of where we are right now to the next eclipse is you're coming more into a place of contribution, and you're coming into a place of contribution in terms of your career, in terms of your standing, how much responsibility you're prepared to carry on your shoulders. You've already had Pluto in your 10th house for quite some time. And now the North Node has gone in, and you might have listened to my recent North Node all 12 sign forecast, which I think would also be helpful for this. But, the next series of eclipses are going to be focused predominantly through the 10th and the 4th houses, which is talking about clearing your home life, clearing your career life, and getting a balance between the two. At times, it might feel like your career is more important and your home life kind of takes a back seat. Other times, it's all about home and not the career. But these two, this idea of capability, I think really links the two together, because are we capable of having a great home? Are we capable of feeling grounded and rooted, knowing where we belong, versus are we capable of standing on our own 2 feet? And this is what you're going to be learning. Like, how do I stand on my own 2 feet? Now, and the roots, the more rooted you are, the easier it's going to be for you to stand on your own 2 feet and feel completely responsible, feel like you're lifting up, feel like you're, I think your status is shifting in a way that you could only have dreamed about a short while ago. So the magic is about to happen. And so over this next 6 months, I think you're like regaining trust in your social visions and your social experience, and maybe your social work networked experience. And you're coming into a stage now where your experience is added into your career potential. And if you don't have a career, by the way, it doesn't mean to say this isn't going to work. If you don't have a career, like if you don't have to work, or if you're a stay-at-home mum, by the way, I absolutely thumbs up to you. I've done quite a lot of that myself. And it's difficult because everyone's talking about career, blah, blah. And no one's really thinking about your actual real role that's full of purpose. And also if you're retiring, this message is still for you. This is, how are you standing in your world? How are you surviving? So it's not just about your career. It's about all facets of taking the responsibility, but wearing it really well. This is a place where your status is rising. And so this is an important time for you, really important time for you. This is a time when you might feel like you're making it, and you've got some challenges to get you there. It won't necessarily come easy, because wherever the North Node goes, it's always pushing us a little bit, putting a bit of pressure on us. But I see this journey in 3 parts. So right now, you're learning to connect in a better way. So all of the old hurt is disappearing. It has no place in this new life for you. Let those old pains go. What's happening now is your offering and your message, and what you're connected to, and who you believe in, and what you think is right, etc. That's all clarifying. And because this is clearing all these old thoughts and worries and concerns, because that's clearing, is going to make things much more clarified for you in your own from your own perspective. And because the North Node is coming into your 10th house, it's giving you the chance to contribute about it. Whether your role already gives you the chance to do that, or whether there's some sort of crossover, or whether actually your role is changing, you're stepping into a new job, you are coming into a time of much greater contribution. Now, obviously things keep moving, and it won't be this picture forever. The next step after these 18 months will be when you're starting to explore a bit more and starting to feel a lot more adventurous, and life will open out even more. So yeah, I think actually this journey that you're making right now, sort of regaining confidence to have networks still, they are going to clean up. And because of that, you're more likely to contribute. Because of that, that's more likely to lead to your life opening up. So the wheel keeps on turning, and our experiences are continually growing and moving us on in the right direction. So I hope that's helpful for you, Taurus. If you would like to have a deeper look with me, then just feel free to book into my diary. My links are below, and we can take it from there. But anyway, lots of love to you. Have a great next 6 months from this eclipse to the next, and I'll catch up with you real soon. Bye for now. Gemini, if you've got Gemini ascendant or Gemini rising, this forecast is for you. It's a whole sign Western tropical model that I'm using to give you this forecast. If you use Placidus when you look at your birth chart, you might also find that the Cancer reading is also relevant. So it could be worth checking that one out as well. Anyway, also, if you don't know your ascendant, but you've got Gemini sun, have a listen. I think this could really help you. So what I'm talking about here is the gap between yesterday's eclipse and tomorrow's, well, not tomorrow's, but in 6 months' time, the next eclipse along the way, which is on the 6th of February, 2027. What is this space of time bringing you? Recently, I gave you an eclipse blueprint from the previous eclipse on the 12th of August to this one. It's just a 2-week gap. Now, there is something rather special happening at the moment. And what I think is really special is we're coming to a real clearing here. Over the last 10 years, you have had Neptune going through your 10th house. That took 14 years ish, because it does a dance in and out and then in and out the other end. You also had Saturn fairly recently. In fact, both Neptune and Saturn finally cleared. They finally made a lovely conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, and that was really taking us into a whole new story. And that was on Valentine's Day this year. So there's been a lovely clearing there. However, you still had the North Node going through here. During that time, you also had Chiron going through your 10th house. So it's safe to say over the last 14 years or so, there's been something going on in terms of your status, in terms of how you feel capable, how you solve your own problems, how you step out in the world, your career focus, the amount of responsibility you take on board. I mean, they are some of the trickiest planets. Saturn brings in rules and regulations, and it can bring in difficult bosses, difficult shareholders, people you have to work with. Neptune brings in a lot of deception, people saying, oh, that's so good, and then stabbing you in the back. It can also bring in this very strong need for altruism, like I have to have a really altruistic job. And at the same time, Neptune, when it's challenged and it's in your 10th house, it can absolutely bring a real loss of confidence in yourself. In fact, Neptune and Saturn there can absolutely cause a loss of confidence in your own ability to be able to bring home the bacon. Sorry if you're a vegetarian or vegan, just a term, but it's difficult. Like, we're all expected to somehow make our way in this world. And, whether you've got a job or whether you are retired or maybe a stay-at-home parent or maybe you're studying, this part of the world is about our feelings of success. And do we feel like we're leaving a legacy of some sort? Do we feel like we're living up to our potential? These are all really big questions. And the last 14 years would have had some real big ups and downs. Well, that's all clearing. And yes, last night's eclipse is kind of signaling the end of that. There's not going to be the North Node or an eclipse in the sign of Pisces now until, well, you've got at least 16 years. So that's going to clear some space for you, and make your career area feel so much more possible, like so many more possibilities for you. Now, I called this one the crossing because it's really shifting us. And of course, you've got Gemini ascendant. So with that, you've also got Uranus in your first house. Or if you're in Placidus, maybe in your first, maybe in your 12th. And Gemini is always bringing this sense of rediscovery of yourself and a need for independence. So I think as things are clearing in your career, you're now thinking, maybe I don't need other people to get involved. Maybe I need to clear things. Maybe I need to get more independent. So this is a real shift that's going on. Now, Uranus that's here also helps to rule your 9th house, which is where the North Node is right now. So it's a very, very Aquarian time for you. The Aquarian values, which is freedom, independence. I would say a sense of sacred fairness is really important. Aquarius is the absolute sign of the brotherhood of man, and like brothers and sisters, this feeling of connection to everyone, not necessarily a spiritual union, but just a kind of living and practical union. Like questions about how do we all fit in the world together? How do we share stuff? How do we make sure everything keeps on working? So there's a sense of organization around this, and Aquarius is not just ruled by Uranus, it's absolutely got loads of Saturn in there. So there is this, I think, very strong need to know that where your energies are taking you are going to be laying down some helpful structures. But also where the North Node is, and also currently where Pluto is, and the next eclipse is going to slip in here in February of next year. And then there's going to be a lot of focus around here and here. It's taking you into an area of learning and sharing and expanding and teaching as well, potentially broadcasting as well. If you like broadcasting, if you like creating content, if you see stuff and then think that could help so many people, that's the energy I'm talking about. This expanding feeling. So we're moving from everything to do with your achievement. Now it feels like, actually, I'm not bothered about my achievement, because actually my achievement feels so much richer when I'm expanding. How can I make my achievement related to my own expansion? How can I also make it into something that's going to inspire others? So you're moving from a place of achievement and moving into a place of inspiring contributions. And this is already taking shape. It's already underway. And the closer you get to February, the more that contribution's coming in. Now, this lunar eclipse is also, like I said, it is a bit of a crossing point. It's, I think, starting to sever you from some of the patterns of the past. And with that comes some of the learning. Now, it's severing us really from this sense of belonging, but maybe in terms of thought leadership. You know, what did you know? And where was that source coming from? Was it coming from stuff related to your childhood, your family, your early schooling? Was it related to the place in society that you belong in? Because what's really coming up now, I think, is this need to be aware of what came first and what you learned first, but also be aware that some of it's not true. Some of it doesn't work for you anymore, you know, and the idea that we are what we think, if you're still using the old protocols and ideas from way back when, you're going to stay way back here. And right now, life is taking you into this part of the chart, which could involve relocation. It could also involve a lot of travel. It could involve a sort of social context that comes from mysticism, from a different culture, from a different language, from different types of people. You know, everything is due to expand and inspire. And funnily enough, as your 10th house is clearing beautifully, I actually think that... as you're expanding yourself, your career will probably just realign itself. It will sort itself out. So all of those concerns about how you are being perceived, your recognition, feelings of gratitude for where you are in life, that's all going to realign. But it's coming with this quite sharp need for independence. And it's definitely taking you on a bit of a journey. Now, obviously, everything shifts all the time. The wheel keeps on turning. And in about another 18 months' time, the shift is going to be coming into the 8th house, which is really talking about a much bigger share, much deeper trust in the people around you. So it really figures that you're coming into a time of expanded reality and learning about new ways of being. Because as the wheel turns and you come deeper into the next sort of increment of this nodal journey, you will need such a broad vision and such a broad knowledge and understanding of people so that you can build much more solid relationships with people. So I think this is looking quite good for you, Gemini Ascendant. If you would like to go deeper and have me actually look really deep into your chart, then all you need to do is just book a session with me. My details are below and we can work it all out for you. So have a great time. I hope this has been helpful, and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Cancer rising. This is for you if you've got Cancer rising or ascendant, or indeed if you are somebody with Cancer sun. Now, if you use Placidus when you look at your chart, you might actually find it more helpful, or equally as helpful, to look at the Leo rising reading too. This is a forecast to take you on a bit of a journey from yesterday's eclipse or today's eclipse. I was up all night watching, or for a lot of the night watching, seeing the moon get eaten away to almost nothing. It looked like it disappeared at one point because the clouds came over, and then seeing it reappear. I watched the whole moon flow. It was beautiful. So you might be tired, a bit like me. I'm a bit bleary-eyed today, hence the glasses. So I'm taking you on a journey from today's eclipse right the way through to the next eclipse on the 6th of February 2027. Now, I really think this one, I've named it the crossing, because it seems to be disconnecting us from our past identity. Something really has shifted now. It's no longer appropriate. And, and this is the big and, wherever our wherever our Pisces house is, it's clearing beautifully. I was reminded recently that 14 years ago, we had Neptune in here. Of course, we also had Saturn in here recently. And then at the same time as we had Saturn and Neptune, we also had the North Node come through. During that time as well, earlier, we also had Chiron. So over the last 14 years, the Pisces energy and our Pisces houses have been in a deluge of difficult planets. And Chiron, I'm counting him as a planet, even though he's not technically, but like Chiron brings up our vulnerabilities. Neptune brings up everything we're uncertain about, our doubts, also a lot of creativity and spirituality, but it doesn't really land in the sign of Pisces. It's not easy. And also Saturn. I mean, imagine putting down roots in the ocean of Pisces. That's so difficult. So Saturn was quite frustrated. Now, of course, Saturn and Neptune have moved into the 10th house of Aries. So your 9th house is crystal clean and clear. And last night's eclipse is really the last of this Pisces energy really coming out. There won't be another eclipse here for at least another 16 years, roughly. And, you know, the emphasis of the eclipses going forwards are mostly going to be over the 2nd and 8th house for the next 18 months. There is another one in Virgo coming up, but we're sort of out of this Pisces phase now. Now, what this means is everything to do with exploration and adventure and learning and sharing and everything you're passionate about, all those deep understandings of how things work, spirituality, law, philosophy, all of that stuff is going to really get easier. It's going to get simplified. You shouldn't have any worries about it. You shouldn't have any fears about it. It won't feel like you're getting punished for looking at things deeply. So that's nice. You know, that sense of exploration and adventure is going to come back, but it's going to be crystal clean and clear, which is great. Now, over the next 6 months until we get to the 6th of February, we're carrying this degree with us. You know, we really feel like that need to sort of explore is still with us, exploring context, exploring like the whole idea of life and purpose and all of that jazz. And then we're also transitioning, or you're also transitioning into a much deeper stage of life. And it feels like a divine timing, actually, because you've already got Pluto in this part of your chart, now the North Node in this part of the chart. And very soon, all of the eclipses are going to be sort of happening somehow in a way that's associated with this part of the chart. So you're coming into a time of deepening understanding. And this 8th house has a lot to say about shared trust, shared belongings, getting beyond difficulties with people, like really getting to the bottom of things. And the fact that you're coming into this with a clear sense of right and wrong, a clear sense of law, a clear sense of spirituality, a clear sense of your widest and broadest understanding of the world, that's going to help all those conversations that you might be having. The ultimate purpose of this is to be able to share with people, even in the most difficult relationships. And often, and you know, it's difficult to say this, but often our hardest relationships are actually the ones closest to us, because there are all these unwritten rules of what you can and can't say. Like, you know, when someone might get a little bit triggered by something. And so we're often walking on eggshells, but actually you're coming into a time now where your biggest learning is about how to manage the eggshells, how to manage people when they're difficult, how to manage people when they're triggered. And so that's why it's kind of really brilliant, actually, that your 9th house is starting to open up in front of you again. It's clear. So all of those things that you wanted to explore and know more about, I think you're going to be able to see it clearly. So if I was in your shoes right now, I think I would be, over the next 6 months, spending a little bit of time learning about how to have deeper conversations with people, how to talk about difficult things with people, how to hold space while you're having those difficulties, how to manage the responsibility of those conversations, how to come to terms when people say horrible things to you, how to understand your own value when you feel that other people around you don't value you. Now, whilst that might sound a little grim, I actually think it would be very helpful, because what it means is the people that you're interacting with over the next 18 months are going to feel so much less triggered. And if they're feeling so much less triggered, they're going to be a lot more open to you, a lot more in trust with you, and the sharing that might need to occur. Like, for instance, like with partners or in-laws or your own parents or your children or your siblings, we often, there are certain blockages sometimes, to sharing things. Like, imagine if there's a retirement situation coming up or an inheritance situation coming up. These are the times when these skills are really, really helpful. Also, this could be very easy and soothing in terms of situations where you might need to ask for money, manage money, and manage your conversations and details between you and a mortgage company or a loan company and things like that, because the 8th house also shows us everything there is to know about mortgages and loans and other people's money that we can access. Another thought is, the 8th house has a lot to do with death and dying. It also has to do with the transformation, all levels of transformation, from birthing right the way through to dying. And so again, if you're going in from this space of exploration, spiritual understanding and clarity, this sort of clarity that has eluded you for a long time, then you'll be able to have those deepening conversations with people in their time of need, or deepening conversations with people who are going through a deep transformation. So I see that your willingness to open up and learn some new skills and deepen your skills is going to deepen the trust and allow for a much greater sharing. So I hope that's helpful for you, Cancer. I mean, you're a sensitive little being, aren't you? With that lovely sort of Cancer rising or Cancer sun. Hopefully that will be of help. I've seen this actually work out. Like the Leo ascendant people are just sort of following you, like they're sort of preceding you by 18 months. I've been working with quite a few Leo people that have been in your situation that you're coming into. So I'm seeing lots of rifts, healing and reconstructing. So sending you lots of love. And if I can be of any help at all in terms of going deep and looking deep into your own birth chart with you, then just get in touch. You can book directly straight into my diary on the Calendly link just below. So loads of love to you. Take care and catch you another time. Bye for now. Hey there, Leo Ascendant. Let's have a look at this second Ascendant blueprint of August. So I did one of these a couple of weeks ago, from the solar eclipse to the lunar eclipse. Now I'm looking at the eclipse blueprint from the eclipse that we've had today, taking us right the way through to the next eclipse that's happening on the 6th of February 2027. Now, before we get going, I just want to share that this is a whole sign Western tropical model that I'm using to be able to give you some advice here. And so this is suitable for you with Leo rising or ascendant, however you call it. And it could also be helpful if you've got Leo sun. Now, if you use a Placidus chart and you've got Leo rising, you might also find it helpful to listen to the Virgo ascendant forecast as well. So my advice is try both and see which one resonates more. And you might find that with all of my all 12 sign forecasts, just FYI. So yeah, we had a pretty spectacular eclipse last night. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've called this one The Crossing, because it's got such strong energy. And I think it's kind of separating us from where we were, and it's setting sail. It's really helping us move forwards. And because this is also the last eclipse in Pisces for a long time. Moreover than that, the sign of Pisces has been a difficult place for most people. And for you, it's been in your 8th house. We had Neptune going through this for 14 years, from 2008, I think. Then we also had Chiron going through here. More recently, we had Saturn going through here. And then whilst Saturn and Neptune were going through Pisces, we also had the North Node come in. That, I would say, would have been one of the hardest times to, have, like having them going through your 8th house would have been quite challenging. Now, it's lovely and clear. Saturn and Neptune are both in Aries. Chiron's moved on, and the North Node has literally just moved very recently into the sign of Aquarius. And so really this eclipse is, I think, almost like shutting the door. It's a bit like when you've moved house and you've done the actual moving, you've cleaned up the house and everything, but this is where you pull that door shut and you lock it and you hand the key over to somebody else. So I really feel like your 8th house has been worked on massively. And this 8th house, it rules in your life things like all the baggage between you and your loved ones, in particular, like your family, your birth family, inheritance stuff, relationships with siblings, and again, how you share the crown jewels, all sorts of judgments and behaviors and beliefs, in particular, how other people are viewing you. Like, again, these people, the people that know you close enough to see you at your lowest, when you're mad, who see your bad points and you see theirs, the ones that openly judge you, and often that sadly sits in our families. So it's a place of blame, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, and grief. And so, that door is really slamming shut behind it. It's like, we're done with that now, Pisces. And the great news is this house also deals with transformation and moving, like a rite of passage from one stage of life to a completely different stage of life. And so I think you can absolutely make those changes that you've wanted to make those changes you've wanted to make, but like your confidence has let you down. You've not seen things clearly. You've been a little bit caught up or embroiled in everyone else's feelings and things like that. And I think you're getting a very clear signal now about how to transform. And so I think Leo ascendants are going to be transforming in a huge way now, because it's like everything that could hold them back from the next step, it's just dissolving, which is obviously what Pisces does. It really dissolves things. So it's an ending. It really is a strong ending. It's giving you the space and grace to find something else. Now, this crossing, it's going to take 6 months. And I always think that the degree that the lunar eclipse happens at is a strong degree. So if you've got something around 4 degrees in the sign of Pisces, it's still likely to really tingle with that full moon energy. But that full moon energy is bringing stuff up for you to feel, recognize, and notice, and then release. Now, where's it going? Well, the North Node is currently in your 7th house, which I think is helpful. It's challenging your relationships. It could be very helpful for someone, like if you're a single Leo ascendant and you're looking for a new partner or a partner. It can be very useful because it's putting in place everything that you might need to get that done. And it will be clearing up any kind of cosmic issues, karmic issues, fear issues that stop you from forming relationships. You know, the North Node challenges us a little bit. So I do think you're going to be going through this massive clearance and coming back into trust with yourself as you do so. Now, having Pluto in the 7th house is also indicating that a lot of the partners in your life currently, and I say partners, I don't necessarily mean just a romantic partner. I mean your best friend, the people that you commit to, the people that you choose, the people that you pay because you like what they do, the people that you bring into your inner circle a little bit more. It may well seem like you've got a lot of strong people in your life who are fulfilling something, and by comparison it can make you feel a little less strong. But really what they're doing is they're showing you that you have the strength yourself. They're demonstrating it. They're walking it for you. They're breaking you into it like a new pair of shoes. They are starting to bring in that power so you can see it and think, hey, I think maybe I could do that. They're the ones who are taking the risks and doing all this stuff and showing you how you could easily step in your power. And so I think this is a very interesting journey you're on. So you're releasing that sense of powerlessness about the past and your birth family and all that baggage, and also coming into trusting yourself, coming into trusting any partners you have in life, again, whether they're romantic, they could be business partners, the people that you have in your life and you choose to have in your life and you commit to in your life. They're the ones they're sort of teaching you. So you're coming into a deeper level of trust with them whilst coming into a deeper level of trust with yourself. And then the ultimate part here is to come into partnership. So it feels like a very coherent and consistent journey from from where I'm looking at it. It feels like you're letting go of the baggage, releasing it, accessing that trust, realizing it's okay, realizing the past is the past, and you're coming into that partnership. So it's interesting. When I've looked at the annular solar eclipse, and I look at its purpose, I think it's about contribution. And it's going to be pretty groovy. I mean, there's going to be the North Node in Aquarius. You're going to have the Sun and the Moon, and also Pluto. I mean, that's pretty strong. That's enough to get the party started in your 7th house. The solar eclipse, you've got a new moon eclipse in the 7th house. These don't come around that often. And, now you're coming into this time where the eclipses are going to be very much focused around your 1st and your 7th house. So the relationship with yourself versus your relationship with everyone else. So this is a uniquely changing time. Now, you might also, with the South Node coming into the 1st house, you might notice, and someone in my community described it as sand, like trying to hold sand and the sand slipping through the fingers. She had just had the South Node going through her 1st house. That was her experience, and somebody else had also spoken about it in a similar way. The South Node is showing you who you have been, and who you have been in a sort of Leo way, like your ascendant. So it's talking about who you have been and how that could be slipping through your fingers. However, you also have Jupiter going through here for the very first part of this. And Jupiter is going to make a very strong conjunction with the South Node. And so I don't think it's all about, who you are slipping through your fingers. I also think it's about you're noticing who you've been and noticing what you can keep and hold in your hands. And the rest can just slip through like the sands of time. They can just go through your fingers and you let them go, let them go. In 18 months, that'll all just be sort of like drifted off into space. It's just going to be moving on. But I actually think you're letting go of what doesn't match up to your inner discernment of what's going to bring you forwards. And maybe, just maybe, your partners and the people you commit to are showing you a model that you like. Now, one of the things I really see about this is because the people in your life are so goddamn powerful at the moment and they're achieving lots of things that maybe you don't think you can, they're showing you who you can be. And of course, if you've been holding back at all through a sense of fear, or maybe because you've had so much going on in your 8th house, which can bring up a lot of shame issues, I actually think as those shame issues go and you learn to maybe emulate your partner a little bit and to learn what's good about them and then put your own little Leo spin on it, I think you're going to be coming forward so much more. So your own levels of contribution are going to go sky high, because when you hold back through fear, nobody gets to experience you. But of course, to form a really great relationship, I think people have to feel you and they have to know that you're all in, and that you're not holding back at all. So that's what I'm really feeling for you, Leo Ascendant. I hope that's helpful. Of course, if you want to go deeper in a one-on-one session, then just look at the links below. I've got a link for my Calendly, and you can just book automatically into my diary. So maybe we'll work with each other, who knows, but have a beautiful next 6 months ahead. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Virgo Ascendant. How you doing? So this is for you if you've got Virgo Ascendant, or you might call it rising sign, or you might even have Virgo Sun. This is also going to work for you. Now, this is a forecast using a whole sign Western tropical model. If you like to use Placidus, you might also find that the Libra rising forecast also sounds eerily accurate. So my advice is to play between the two. Now, before I start this, I want to mention that if your ears were burning the other night, on Wednesday night, that's because I had a hangout in my community and we had a couple of people there who had Virgo rising, and they were talking about all these Virgo rising experiences that they'd had, having had the South Node going through the 1st house and the North Node going through the 7th house. And we had a really rich discussion around it. And so I've got a better sense of it. Obviously, I don't have Virgo rising. I've got Scorpio rising. And so it opened my eyes to things that I couldn't possibly conceive of. So thanks to my Virgo ascendant compadres in my community, this is probably going to get just that little bit richer. So thank you very much, Claudia, and also Neha. So let's have a look. So one of the great things before we get going is we're going to be looking from this eclipse to the next eclipse. So this eclipse happened earlier today on the 28th of August. If you're in America, you've probably got it written down as the 27th. The next eclipse is happening on the 6th of February, and it's a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. So it's the sun and the moon together. This is going to be very strong. But let's not forget how powerful this one was. Now, if you followed my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been calling this one surreptitiously the crossing, because it really feels like we've come to a point where this birthing is happening. Now, if you've had a child, you'll know what it's like when you get to that point where you go into labor and you couldn't even stop it if you tried. You know, there is this point where you just have to say, it's happening now. Okay. And then it doesn't matter whether you got the baby grows ironed or if you've got everything set up, like everything will just happen and you just know it's okay. And I think we've got to a time now where change is occurring and we can't hold it back. We can't manage it back. It really feels like a time when we are literally stepping forwards in a way that maybe we will never feel ready for. A bit like most mums, when they're about to have their baby, have this moment of thinking, but I'm not quite ready. And then it happens. And, you know, so I really feel like we're in this kind of moment. And of course, we could feel like that, or you could feel like that, especially because you've recently had the South Node cross here and the North Node cross here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the North Node that's been going through the sign of Pisces, because your 7th house, and again, this is what I didn't quite fully appreciate from your perspective, because I'm not you, but you've had Neptune in your 7th house for 14 years, and he went over at the end of January into Aries. He did do it a little last year as well, but then he came back in. Then you had Saturn that also was going through here very recently, and then also joined Neptune in Aries. Now that's good. That's helpful. During those 14 years, Chiron has also been in your 7th house as well. And you've also had the North Node. So very recently, like at the beginning of this year, for instance, you had Neptune, you had Saturn, you had the North Node in your 7th house. It's like, boom. Oh my God. That's a lot of things going on in your 7th house. Like the 7th house is about partnerships. It's also, and it gets a reputation. It's about your like wedding partner, or, you know, your partner in crime, whatever. I want to say, especially if you're single, or happily single even, it's not just about partners. It's about whoever you choose to be in your life. Like the 7th house is where we commit to things, where we have a handshake, you know, like a marriage or going steady is a handshake, isn't it? You know, so it could be your business partner. It could be, you know, a best friend that you religiously choose to have in your life. It's not any old Tom, Dick and Harry. It's those people. And it also represents your open enemies, because at some level there is a choice that you two have decided you're going to be enemies. So the 7th house has some kind of choice attached to it, I would say. And the planets that go through the 7th house often describe the kinds of people we've had in our life. Saturn going through there can show when your partner or the people around you start to get very negative and possibly demanding and a bit judgmental. You might also find that you've had Neptune going through there as well. And so again, you might have been projecting onto your partner. They might have been projecting onto you. Neptune is at its best like a planet that brings in union and helps you to see beyond the veils. But, you know, when we're caught in our own ego driven battles, and when we're tired and we're infallibly human, we sometimes make bad mistakes, and we get exhausted by those Neptunian types in our 7th house. And also Neptunian types, you know, they might be going through their own Neptune crisis. So your partners, because they're represented by your 7th house, you know, they might be actually feeling a little bit weakened or not that strong. They might be a bit compulsive and not necessarily very discerning. And then the North Node coming through here can really show where they're going through some problems, but also you're going through some difficulties in interpreting, you know, what's going on with them. So it's been difficult being your partner probably, because they may well have felt quite judged by you. I mean, Virgo risings tend to have their life together and the people they choose to have in their life often, are showing up in a slightly dreamy way and not very practical. They've gone through a lot of changes and you've been there watching those changes. You might have even felt like you were responsible for the people in your life. And of course, it's very difficult to have a relationship with somebody if you feel like you're responsible for them and somehow you have to be the dad of them or the mum of them or something. It's hard to take them seriously or to really see them as an equal. So the great news is this eclipse that's just happened is clearing the space. And thank you, Naya, for your description the other night in the hangout. It really is clearing this space. It's giving that space so that your seventh house is nice and open now. It's kind of pristine. It's gone through lots of shifts, and it's a bit like all this dirty planets, dirty washing, went in the washing machine. It's been spun around on a really, really long cycle. It's all come out now. It's empty, and your inner drum is glistening. So I think your partners probably feel relieved. There's a much nicer space for them to step into in this next phase of your life. And to me, it feels like there's something that you've learned that's been very, very strong. During this time, the South Node going through here, and it's been described as sand running through your fingers. The South Node in the first house, it kind of helps you to, I guess, dissolve or recognize those parts of you that are no longer needed, and you can let those go. But of course, it's very difficult. Like when you've experienced difficulties around partnerships and trusting them because they haven't necessarily been their word. They've gone through so many shifts. They haven't really known whether they were coming or going. And then you, by consequence, have also not known where you are going. I always think what's going on in the seventh house often shows us what we're supposed to be learning as well. So I think they've been showing you how to explore unraveling, how to recognize that you don't have to have your shit together all the time. And actually maybe you being so strict and strong on yourself has prevented you from absolutely letting it all go and starting over again. So there is something quite charming about this. I do think there has been a message of surrender at some level. But ultimately, this is a time when you've come into a better way of relating, and this clean inner drum in the seventh house now is creating space for a new kind of relationship, a new kind of relating that's clean, which really appeals to that sort of Virgo sensibility. Now, where you're going, so you're crossing over out. You've cleaned that space, and now you're coming into your place of everyday living, which actually you're utterly fine with. The sixth house, Virgo is the sixth sign of the zodiac. There's a lot of similar themes experienced in the sixth house and the sign of Virgo. So there is a sort of realignment, I guess, because your relationships, however they are, have come into a new understanding. You've got more time now to resolve what's actually going on in your day-to-day. That involves managing your life, managing your work, managing your money, managing your health, managing your fitness routines, your pets, everything, your bills. And maybe there are some new things that are supposed to be coming in. And so maybe that's why you've had to see what collapse looks like, so that you can absolutely realign your life and create space so that you can actually go into contribution, which is what I think the next eclipse is about. It's interesting, Aquarius, I really like Virgo and Aquarius because I think they carry a shared theme. In fact, weirdly, not everyone says this, I think that signs that are 5 apart from each other do have some kind of resonance. And one of the things I absolutely see with Virgo and Aquarius is this sense of carrying something sacred, a sacred duty. Virgos want to keep things purified. They're absolutely involved in the harvest, and they really want to improve and keep things clear and pristine. I also think Hygeia is and Vesta. There are some asteroids and dwarf planets that I think really sort of encompass the sort of Virgo energy. But Aquarius is the water carrier. She or he, I think it's Ganymede, actually, the mythical character in Aquarius, but they're carrying sacred water. And this is like the water of knowledge. This is the water of life. And they decide where they're going to pour it. So there is something really sacred. So I think there's something dutiful and sacred that's coming in. And you couldn't have done that had you not felt that sort of collapse around relationships and that change in your understanding and how you relate to people. It's, I think, made you more human. If anything, it's kind of taken you out of the overly rational mindset that can come up, with that strong Virgo energy. And so it's bringing you into a space of serving. Now, how you're serving, I don't know. But when you're serving and you're feeling like you have a new way of relating, you're all in. So I do think whatever is going to become part of your day-to-day life is going to feel like a contribution. And I think it's going to feel quite sacred. It feels like a duty, like a proper purpose, like what you're doing really has a meaning. And of course, that meaning probably does go back to the people you want in your life. Maybe you're serving something that's going to absolutely not just help them, but help many more people. So that's the flow that I see is coming in from this eclipse to the next. I hope that's helpful. If you would like to work with me and go deeper, then just book into my Calendly and we can take it from there. But anyway, have a beautiful post-eclipse season, and we'll catch up real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Libra Ascendant. This is for you. This is a forecast taking you from today's eclipse. It might have happened last night for you, according to where you are in the world. I think it happened on the 27th if you're in the US. For me, it's on the 28th. I named this eclipse the crossing, and I really think this eclipse has got something to do with stepping away from what was, and moving forwards into a new direction. And if you want to know more about my thoughts about that, I recorded something in part 1, which I released yesterday on my YouTube channel. So that gives a lot of extra context. I mean, there's some pretty hardcore and interesting asteroids involved, including Damocles, which I think is really amazing. You should listen in if that's of interest. Now, I'm going to be taking you through the period of time between this eclipse and the next one, which is happening on the 6th of February, 2027. And that's going to take us into a glorious Aquarian season with Pluto, with the sun and the moon in the new moon eclipsed position, and also the North Node. I mean, this is all happening in your 5th house. And the 5th house is a place of joy. The 5th house is a place of creation, where we want to birth things, where what is important to us and what lights us up just simply, it kind of comes up, it bubbles up, it brews. We feel it in our solar plexus. And it can genuinely be birth, because, the 5th house talks about us having children and conception. It can also be the bubbling up of a new relationship if you're single, because the 5th house shows where we get passionate about something that kind of just happens. So it's very much about new love, new intimacy, sensuality, children. But if babies and relationships aren't quite on your mind, then I would say it's going to be that creativity, that creative number, that feeling that there's more to you than what has evolved. And I think that's actually quite a good statement, because where you've been for a long time is in the toil of the 6th house. Now, I want to share something with you. Over the last 14 years, you've had Neptune going through your 6th house. You've had Chiron going through your 6th house. You've had Saturn going through your 6th house, and also the North Node that has been resident there for the last, I'm going to say the last 18 months, but just recently it's shifted into your 5th house. So that's a lot. And I don't think it's been very comfortable for your 6th house. And the 6th house is about your day-to-day, your work, going to work, managing your money, managing your health, managing pretty much everything. It's like the office manager of your chart. And so you've had Saturn that can bring in criticism and judgment and strong routines and structure and schedules and this feeling of really strong responsibility. You've also had Chiron bringing up any vulnerabilities about your performance, and Neptune, which just brings in lots of doubts about your capability. So you've been through a lot. Now, this particular eclipse has just cleared all of that. So now you're kind of landing into the fifth house, knowing that your day-to-day life has been rediscovered, turned upside down. It's been worked inside and out. It's like gone through almost like a boot camp. Now, maybe that's a bit unfair because boot camps are normally done in 30 days, and this has been like a 14-year slog. But honestly, I feel like your day-to-day existence has just been shaped from every possible angle. You've worked out every muscle group, you could say, and now, A, you know about peace. B, you know about what feels utterly meaningless and how you don't want that to fill up your whole life. And C, I think you've got this great sense of power, this great sense of, do you know what? I'm a creator. I've got something I want to bring in. So that's where I think we're moving between the crossing and the contribution. There is movement in between. And so that's what I'm excited about. So this degree here for Pisces is still a strong degree. So there's still some Pisces things going on because eclipse degrees kind of vibrate. They have a little energy of their own, like a little piece of what is it that kryptonite, you know, that Spider-Man has. He could feel it, like it'd be over there, but he'd still feel the energy of it. It's not necessarily kryptonite. It's just there's a reminder. There's a little reminder, an emotional reminder about the weight of the sixth house, being too busy to enjoy your life. There's a weight of that. And that is what is pushing you towards now becoming into your creation phase. So put simply, this next 6 months is about refining what it is you want to do in your life. So you've got a lot more space for something new to come in, and then rediscover all those things that you really love. So that you are coming into this place of creation. And that is your contribution, is to create from the heart. Now, how do you do this? Well, I think this is where you need to look at yourself from the position of what was I like as a child? You know, what were the first judgments of me? You know, if my mum and dad said like, oh, I remember you were the one that always had a notebook and were always drawing, or you were always doing the dog's hair or something. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever it is that first came in, whatever you were first known as, that sort of really describes something about you, like part of your gift. And often we leave those by the wayside, don't we? So I don't know what your little gifts were when you were small, or maybe what your teacher said about you when you were in your primary education, or maybe what your teacher said as you were a little bit older, or maybe when you went to college or university or your first bosses. You know, often it's like, oh, they don't pay attention, they're always doing such and such, like talking at the back of the class. There's the gift. There's something social. You know, sometimes your gift is described in terms that may be a little bit snidey. You know, sometimes your gift is a little bit disturbing, but this is for you to decide to pick up. And I really think you are reuniting with what lifts you up. And for that, I think you've earned a bit of space. You've earned the right to take yourself seriously. You've shown over the last 14 years that you can pretty much handle anything. Now you can handle the energy of something new that you're birthing, but B, you can handle a bit of criticism as it comes up. Most of the criticism, I think, is coming from here, and it's sour grapes from people who are seeing you having fun doing what you like, and they're kind of just, she doesn't want to play anymore. They don't want to have fun anymore. Just ignore it, you know. So if there is any kind of difficulty around this time over the next 18 months with this nodal position, it's just that other people want to come in, not to spoil your fun. It just looks like what you're doing is so cool. And you're so kind of poised about it. You've got your own sense of self. So I think you're coming into a really beautiful phase. And I think this phase could open up into something much deeper and much more satisfying. And also in a way that you're going to feel like you've got your purpose back. So I'm going to leave that there, Libra Ascendant. I hope that's helpful for you to understand the current flows. If you want to go deeper with me, then just book into my Calendly diary. It's online and the link is below. But have a wonderful eclipse to eclipse season, and catch up with you real soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Scorpio Ascendant. How you doing? This is a forecast taking you on the next part of the eclipse journey. The last time I was talking about the eclipses was, of course, with my last eclipse blueprint from the solar eclipse in Leo on the 12th of August, right the way through to current date now, the 28th of August. This one is taking you on the next part of the journey from this lunar eclipse that happened today or last night, according to where you are in the world. And the next one that's coming up, and it's an annular solar eclipse on the 6th of February, 2027. I'm going to stick by my guns. About a month ago, I described this particular lunar eclipse as representing a crossing, because it really feels like its programming is linked into crossing over, like, and I don't mean passing away, but it's passing away from a particular part of life, like stepping into something new. And, you know, if you listen to yesterday's forecast where I talk about the coding of this one, the asteroids of this one, the Sabian symbols of this one, you'll see what I mean. I mean, this degree is going to carry for quite some time, not just 2 weeks until the next new moon. This eclipse degree and the meaning of this eclipse, I think, is carrying us for the next 6 months. At which point the new one comes in, and it, you know, this new one is full of surprises. It's got such a strong, it's such a strong chart. It's got the sun, the moon, Pluto, and also the North Node, all in the sign of Aquarius, in opposition to, of course, Jupiter in the sign of Leo. So it's really, really strong. And yeah, this journey from crossing, I think, is taking us into the contribution. So what I want to do in this short forecast is take you on this journey in your mind's eye, so you can see potentially what this 6-month journey is going to look like. What is life asking from you? What is life asking you to show up as? And also, what's healing right now? Where is that healing coming in? Where are you going to get relief? Because I also see that as we make this crossing, we're leaving behind a situation that maybe felt a little bit difficult. Now, before I get too far into this, I just want to say this is a whole sign Western tropical forecast. This is the model that I'm using. So this is suitable for people with Scorpio rising or ascendant. And if you've got Scorpio sun, you'll probably appreciate this as well. But if you've got Scorpio rising and you use a Placidus charting method, you might actually find that the Sagittarius rising speaks to you. I myself has got Scorpio rising, but I use Placidus. And for me, the Sagittarius one always rules out. You don't need to know necessarily why that is, but you know, if you've got Scorpio rising and you listen to Placidus, I recommend you try the two and see which resonates more. And you might find that next time I do one of my all 12 sign forecasts. But anyway, that aside. So what's changing then? Well, if we think of the sign of Pisces and where it sits in our chart, it's had a lot of difficulty. You know, it's been a part of our chart that has had Neptune going through it for 14 years. It had Chiron going through it. Then more recently, it had Saturn going through it and the North Node at the same time. So, for instance, at the beginning of the year, you had Neptune, Saturn, and the North Node all in the sign of Pisces. And so I think it's gradually worn out the sign of Pisces. Our resources in the sign of Pisces have been a little bit lowered. And granted, you know, by February the 14th, we had Neptune and Saturn at 0 Aries, like really fully marking an end to that period. But, you know, the North Node is still going through this. So I really see now the North Node has gone into the sign of Aquarius, and we've had this eclipse, and it's the last eclipse in Pisces for at least 16 years. It's quite a long time. I really think that this is clearing the space. It's as if Pisces has done its bit. You know, it's shown up. And it's taught us so much. I mean, it's taught us about social media. That's absolutely a place of social media for sure. It's shown us the erosion of our relationships in many respects, in particular boundaries. You know, like Pisces is a place where things dissolve and where things don't make sense. And it's also a place of endings. You know, it really shows us where the natural endings are happening in our life. And so I think we've had to say goodbye to a lot of things. I think our understanding of things has got confused. Now, where that has lived in your chart, I would say, it's the fifth house that's been affected. Now, the fifth house is a place where we are first intimate with people. So it can show new relationships. It's also where we might be birthing the next generation. And it's also where we might be birthing ourselves, like birthing our next idea, our next great passion. I always think of the fifth house as showing us a place where we love and where we feel passionate about something, where we're really wanting to feel joy. And of course, having Saturn going through there and the North Node very recently, it's taken the joy out of things somewhat. And so I think as this eclipse passes and it comes into the fourth house, that sense of joy is coming back. That sense of joy, the communion that you might have with your children, but that you don't feel is quite so close anymore. I think that's going to be coming back. I think your intimate mojo is likely to feel a bit rejuvenated and a little bit more vavavoom. I think everything to do with your sacral area, because I think of the sacral area and the womb area as being a place where things really evolve, and they're feeding us with ideas and things to birth. That's going to really open up and it's going to change. So I'm very excited about this. To me, this feels like we've got a clear channel again, and we're not going to get too much in the way. There's not going to be too much in our fifth house to stop us from doing what we're really passionate about. So I think this is really good. Now, the North Node has just recently gone into the sign of Aquarius. Now, it's in the fourth house for us. And the fourth house is a place where we have our home and our roots, our sense of belonging, and also our family. So it's interesting, family, children, there's a bit of an overlap there. The fourth house is also the most private part of our chart. It's where we might need to feel secure, like where we might hide away if we don't feel a bit like hiding behind your mum's skirt or your dad's trouser leg. It's describing that sense of security. Where do you go when the chips are down? It's that place that is the last refuge. It's the place where you feel grounded and hopefully where you feel completely at home. Now, this can bring up a lot of stuff from childhood, because our childhood really does live in the fourth house. So if there are some parts of your life where it feels like you've got childhood issues coming up, I do think the North Node here can bring that really into your full waking consciousness. Now, whilst that could sound a little bit scary, the fourth house in the sign of Aquarius, I think, gives you an ability to see patterns. And actually, Pluto's been the warm-up act here. Actually, Saturn was the warm-up act, really showing us where tightness at home felt uncomfortable. And he was really here from sort of Christmas 2021. Then followed by Pluto, and Pluto's going to be here for a long time. So he's seeking for you to completely transform your home experience. And then the North Node coming in is, I think, really lifting up any dirt that's come up, any of those hidden feelings, any of those hidden situations. It's all coming up to be seen, to be processed, to be let go of, and to take action, whatever appropriate action needs to take place. So this is, I think, clearing out your roots a little bit. I think I want to liken it a little bit. We've got a bit of a temporary garden situation. This isn't our forever home. This is a home that we, are renting. And I love gardening, if you might know that. And I've got about 50 not ganja plants, but we've got 50 vines and trees and things all ready to plant into their new home when we find it. They've been there for ages. And each year I'm having to sort of like pull them out and change the soil a little bit, add some amendments, because they're not thriving. They're in this tight space. They're not anywhere where they can really put their roots down. And so it's much harder to look after your survival when you don't have grounded roots. And of course, when your roots aren't healthy and when they can't fully access all the nutrients, all the things in the soil that it needs to. So I actually feel that there's been a bit of a similar situation here, not being able to put down roots. It's funny, with my Scorpio ascendant, I'm talking, we're living in a home that we're renting, but not one where we can literally let our garden put down roots. That's really literal, isn't it? So this is also a time when I think your desire to put down roots is most likely going to show again. And I wonder what was happening 18 years ago, 18, 19 years ago, because the North Node has a cycle that takes us almost to 19 years. So what was happening 19 years ago? Where were you living? Did you move? Was there a big change in how settled you feel? Because this is resetting how rooted, comfortable, grounded you are for the next 18, 19 years. It's a huge thing. And with Pluto here, he's going to make sure you get the right place, but you might have to dig deep. And interestingly, Pluto is the god of the underworld, you know, so everything under surface level ground belongs to him. So you really might be able to put down roots, but he's going to find you the right bit, you know, because of that. He's got wealth. He's got all of the mineral rights. I mean, everything returns to the earth eventually. And so this is quite a symbolic time. Now, given that you've got Scorpio rising, we've got Scorpio rising, Pluto is an important planet for us. And so to have Pluto at one of the most critical parts of our chart to do with our stability is interesting. Like Pluto, he helps us see our fears. He also helps us see where we've got control that is becoming a bit of a problem. And he helps us go into surrender. I think Pluto is demanding radical surrender. So what part of your plan about where you're living needs to go into radical surrender? Where are your expectations hurting you? Like if you're expecting, oh, I'll be okay when this happens, or this will work, but only when this, and this. Pluto is saying that chain of thinking, you know, that control thinking that you've got is likely to actually push it away. With Pluto, he expects you to absolutely go with the flow and to surrender and be ready. And that's actually where the real strength and resiliency comes up, because actually there are no guarantees in life. You could have everything sorted and feel completely elated because your security was resolved, but our security is injured very, very easily. Nothing is guaranteed. And so he's teaching us there. He's teaching us there that very message. And so what happens when you let go of the idea of the home and the garden? What happens when you let go of the idea of the perfect family? What happens when you let go of all of those thoughts that you've had about the perfect scenario for rootedness? Or when you let go of your inner childhood, you know, the wounds of the childhood, the benefits of the childhood? What happens when you just like let it go or come into acceptance with it? Because I actually think Pluto, yes, he's teaching us to surrender, but it's not a passive thing. He's really showing us where there's strength, and also where there's acceptance of what is, because I think from his perspective, what is what's best. So this is interesting. I actually see over the next 18 months, you will probably most likely develop roots and also a sense of belonging, but it's coming with a change. The North Node, wherever it goes, is showing that we're changing somewhat. And Pluto as well is absolutely speaking of that change too. So yeah, this is an interesting journey. You know, I really see that you're coming out of this phase of losing your creativity, or finding it hard to be creative, or maybe finding it hard to get your creations off the ground. Or if you've got children, you know, maybe there's been something that you've not been able to get to the bottom of, like Neptune, Chiron, Saturn, and the North Node, you know, repeatedly in this house will do that to you and your creation and your offspring. I think now that this is clear and your root of expression is feeling so much more vibrant, I actually think your expectations and your needs, and the fourth house really shows us our needs, will dissipate. And with that dissipation comes a participation from life. It's like, as you release your hold on how you think it should be, it absolutely should be like this, and I need it like this because of the shitty childhood I had, or whatever it is. As this happens, I think life will start to meet you. So I think this is a really beautiful part of the journey. And so if I was to help prepare you for the next 6 months, my advice would be start creating clearly and beautifully. Enjoy creating. Recognize that everything that you're birthing right now is not impeded. Nothing is impeded. Everything is valuable. All of your creations are valuable, because when you put yourself in that creative state of mind, you actually come back to your own belonging. You realize that that's what you're here for. You realize that in your creations, you feel rooted. And in that, any of those false authorities as to what you need to feel that sense of, this is where I am, like anchored in life, it changes, it transforms. And of course, I really think Pluto and the North Node are doing some very special transforming for you. Now, Pluto and the North Node are going to come together, not this year, but next year they will. They're coming together a few times, I think, off the top of my head. And I think once they've come together, I think life is going to really transform. I do see you're on a journey of belonging, Scorpio. So I'm wishing you a lot of luck. But this is a very strong part of your chart, I have to say. Our chart. So I'm going to leave that there for you. I hope that has given you a bit of a sense of what's coming up. If you would like to look at your chart with more depth and with me by your side, then just book in for one of my Calendly sessions. I don't have to do it with you. You write me notes and I can do it for you. But however I can help, I'm here, and sending you lots and lots of love. And let's see what happens. You take care. Bye for now. Hey there, Sagittarius rising or ascendant, however you call it. This is your forecast taking you from the lunar eclipse that we've just had, literally this morning or late last night, according to where you are in the world. In this forecast, I'm going to take you on a whole sign Western tropical journey of your chart as I've sort of designed it here. This is suitable for you with Sagittarius rising or ascendant. And also, if you've got Sagittarius sun, this might be good for you. Now, if you do have Sagittarius rising, but you read your chart through Placidus, you might also find the Capricorn forecast also helpful. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so we're going from this eclipse until the next eclipse, and the next eclipse comes through in February 2027. It's an eclipse that's in the sign of Aquarius. And when it comes through, there's going to be Pluto, the sun and the moon, and the North Node, and Jupiter's going to be really in opposition to them all. So it's a very dynamic time. And I think this is very much about contribution. And interestingly, it's happening in your third house. Now, the third house is a place, funnily enough, of contribution and community, and also local community. I also think it shows us where we belong. Now, the third house is also a place where we make where we communicate, where information's coming in and out. There's a flow of communication, a flow of trading, bartering, buying things, selling things, and moving around everywhere. It's a very sort of active time. And so it's interesting that the North Node is going to come through it's already come through your fourth house in the sign of Pisces, and it's now in the third house, already upping the ante and making you a lot more into your communication. So anywhere where you feel like you've been on a go slow for a while, because the North Node in the fourth house can make you a bit go slowy. As it comes into the third house, it's really transforming it. And so you're likely to be alive in conversation, lots and lots of community things going on. It's going to be a very busy time. You might also want to ask yourself what was going on about 19 years ago, because that would have been the last time it was here. Now, this isn't a North Node forecast. This is eclipse to eclipse. But I want to kind of sow the seeds here, because the sign of Pisces, where you've got your fourth house, has been full of woes. That's the word I want to say. I mean, I don't want to paint a really dark picture, but it's had some very interesting scenarios. It had Neptune going through the fourth for 14 years, then it had Chiron, then it had Saturn and the North Node. And at the start of this year, you had Neptune, Saturn and the North Node here. Now, I've had these in my fourth house. I've been living this with you, and I know that this has left me feeling quite depleted, and also very much wanting to stay close to home, watching my pennies. It's a low energy time, but Neptune here for 14 years, it can erode your roots and sometimes leave you feeling like you don't know where you are. Well, the good news is they're all in the 5th house now. And the last link to this was the North Node, and now the very last eclipse. So we're coming out of that Pisces time where it feels like, oh my God, when is my home going to get sorted out? When am I going to get that sense of home is where the heart is? So I think things are going to get clearer and easier. And really starting from now, I think it's going to change and transform. You're going to know where home is. And I think that's great. Now, can you imagine how much more of a sense of belonging you're going to have when you feel so much more stable at home? It's as if you've been waiting for this miracle for a long, long time. And the great thing is, as you feel a lot more at home, and you might need to move to feel at home, but I think these things are going to work hand in hand. But it's going to put you in a better environment, an environment that you feel like you belong to, an environment that you can communicate with. So I think your communication is going to really rapidly speed up. But your understanding of things, this is a learning time, but this is also a time of norming where you don't feel quite so alienated, and where you start to feel like you're part of something. From that perspective, I think it's great. Now, if you've got an online business and you work from home, and your business, your community exists online, then this also really makes sense, because Pluto has been here for quite some time now. And since he's been here, he's also been transforming how you do your life. In particular, how do you do community? How do you do sharing? How do you do sharing information? How many messages are you sending or sharing? Are you participating in a gift economy? Are you participating in something that feels like there's a contribution? Because this is where we're heading, into this time of great contributions. And it really matches the 3rd house. The 3rd house is a place where we're highly social, where we are also thinking about being one of the collective. It's not quite the 11th house. It's a little bit closer to home. It feels like a familiar community, not necessarily a big tribe, but to me, it feels like there's changes, and you're feeling now that you are not only just belonging to the 4th house, but there's a sense of belonging in the 3rd as well. So I think this is bringing you forwards and bringing your understanding with you. It's also bringing your understanding of what happens when deep psychological change happens, because that's what you've been through with Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, and also the North Node around here, and also the successive eclipses that we've had over the last 18 months. So this really is turning over a new leaf. Now, this is making you quite commercial as well, because, when you get things moving back and forth, you begin to become important to people in a new way. It's participation, and it's not necessarily about you leading it. You can set the scene and still participate within it. You can share ownership of some things. So, it's not something that you have to step into and be the overlord of necessarily. Now, another thing that would be helpful to understand is, where is this leading? Well, whatever you're working on right now for the next 18 months is leading you back into the 2nd house. And the 2nd house is where your self-esteem and your value lives, but also the money that you make. So I actually think your money is likely to start improving because you're contributing more. And the more you contribute, the more people understand you. The more people understand you and communicate with you, then it just becomes quite an easy process. So I'm actually seeing this as an upliftment, but mainly as an upliftment of something that you're doing from a sense of belonging, not necessarily from a sense of going somewhere every day, like going to work. I could really see that you could tie this into your daily life, into your daily routine. Now, if you're not going to leave a corporate job or stop going to work every day, and of course, working from home might not be for you, what you're likely to find, I think, is that the landscape that you're working in and going to on a day-by-day basis is going to shift, and it's going to transform, and you're meant to be part of that transformation. You're meant to be doing something of value there. So don't be surprised if you get called and pulled into a much more direct role. Things are changing, I think, definitely for the better. So I guess that's the end of my message. It might be a little bit shorter than normal, and I think that's because the third house is, I don't see it as a very problematic house. Some houses you really don't want to have the North Node going through, and Saturn and Neptune, and that's why I put a lot of emphasis on the fourth. But the third is quite an innocuous one, and having Pluto going through it, it's bringing opportunities for you to get involved in the community. I think it's also bringing in a sense of influence and power. So I really think if I was in your shoes, my plan would be to recognize all is well, that feeling of stability is coming, and that feeling of stability and rootedness is also coming from being in the community. Once you get back into the community, and you're communicating that you're already feeling steady and rooted, things are going to change, things are going to transform, and you're going to be coming into your own power. And then from there, who knows where that's going to go, but it's sending you on quite an exciting little trajectory there. So I hope that's helpful for you, Sagittarius. Have a beautiful eclipse to eclipse season. If I can be of any help, then just get in touch. My Calendly link is just below. If you want to work with me, just invite me. So anyway, have a good one. Catch you next time. Bye for now. Hey there, Capricorn rising. This is for you. If you've got Capricorn rising, you might call it ascendant. Or if you've got Sun in Capricorn, it could also be useful. Also, if you look at your chart in Placidus and you've got Capricorn rising, you might find Aquarius is also a helpful forecast to watch. Try it out and see. Let me know if it works for you. So anyway, let's get going. This short forecast is to take you from the eclipse from yesterday to the next eclipse, which is in the 6th of February 2027. I wholeheartedly believe that where an eclipse occurs, that degree, and it was 4 degrees Pisces, remains important until the next big eclipse comes along. So what I'm going to be examining is what is resonant and sticking with you over the next 6 months, how that might evolve and take you on a journey of growing until the next one comes along. Now, I've spoken a lot about this particular eclipse that we're in right now, and I've described it as the crossing. That was the word I used, because I think it's really taking us from, I think we've been on a journey actually, from the basket or the boat and it got things working very, very quickly. And then at the time of the solar eclipse on the 12th of August, there was this, I think, and I experienced this myself personally, a real sense of what we know and who we are, and almost like this remembrance. And then things started to speed up and we started to take action, especially as the Sun and Mercury went into Virgo. Now, it's lifted us up somewhat. If you've been open to following your own magnificence, it's lifted you up quite quickly in quite a surprising way. Now, this eclipse comes to say, step in if you dare. And it's also saying you have to step in. It's inviting you to step in, but it's also pushing you a little bit as well. So if you're feeling that sense of, oh my God, something's changing, I don't feel ready for it. It's like, take a deep breath. I do think that change is coming. I think, and I rarely say that, I talk about us having choice and agency, and I do stand for choice and agency, but I can't help but feel that this is quite an important time. Pisces has been inundated with almost like a tirade of difficult planets. So if we go back to Neptune coming in here, it was in there for 14 years. Then Chiron came in at the same time as Neptune. Then we also had Saturn come in with Neptune at the same time. And then finally, we had the North Node, Neptune and Saturn all working here. Now, Neptune and Saturn cleared that on Valentine's Day this year, but the North Node was still remaining, still giving us some challenges. Now the North Node has gone into Aquarius, and we've just had the last eclipse in Pisces. To me, this is significant. This is showing that our third, or your third house in Pisces, is clear. It's done a lot of business. It's not going to get really challenged for a long time yet. There's a beautiful clearing. This is helping you enormously. Now, the third house in your chart is where you do a lot of thinking, where you participate a lot in the outside world, by outside, I don't mean far, far away. I'm talking about your local community, where you sit, where you belong. And that can also involve with your siblings, your cousins, that kind of early everyday experience. It's been clouded, by Neptune, making it difficult to know who to trust. Chiron showing the potential of feeling a little bit of a dummy, like maybe that you're not quite learning fast enough, or maybe that you're a little bit behind, or that people are laughing at you a little bit. It can show a lot of vulnerability over your intelligence. Saturn here can slow things down and make it feel a little bit lonely in your community. And then the North Node is coming to ask you, have you got over all those childhood wounds? Have you got over bullying? Have you got over this, that, and the other? So yeah, the third house to do with your participation in life and participation and belonging local to where you live. That's clear now. And I love it. And I think over the next 6 months, you're approaching life from this perspective of, I'm free. There's this feeling of relief. There's relief at home. There's relief in my community. I can be who I want a lot more now. I'm less judged. And that's great. I absolutely love that. Now, where this energy is pulling you is into the contribution in your second house. And I should also say, while that was also happening, you went through a lot of change, because you also had Pluto going through your first house. And you also had Jupiter and Pluto and also Saturn working at the same time from, say, 2019, around the COVID times. So I see that you've had a lot of stuff going on here. Now, this part of the chart is very much about your early personal development. This is about you deciding who you are and working out what you're worth, what your value is, and where you belong. So I really feel that from, say, 2008, and also really from 2019, 2020, it's been a lot of questions about why you're here, what you're doing, etc., etc. So I just feel like there's a lot changing, and now it's all really coming into this part of your chart, which is about self-value, self-esteem, and really transforming that. It also describes the value that you put on your efforts, like the money that you charge. Now, maybe you work for somebody else, maybe you work for yourself, but this really shows how much value you have or feel you have. And it also talks about the value that you're communicating psychically to everyone else. Like you can sometimes tell, can't you? You go into a restaurant and you see somebody who looks $1 million, and you can tell if they feel like they are worth $1 million. And then you might meet other people and you just get this sense that they have no self-esteem at all. So this is giving you like a self-esteem boot camp. And as we get closer to the solar eclipse on the 6th of February, that's really where you are. You're resetting and getting ready to see yourself as a real value, and then to bring in some real resources. I think it really flows when you know your value, life knows your value, and then suddenly life starts throwing that value your way. So I think you're on a really beautiful trajectory from feeling known in your own community and feeling that there's no difficulty around that. And now you're really starting to learn your value. And I think that's really special. So I think as we're going through this, you're going through a rethink in terms of where you belong. And that might take a while to realize that you've got a clarity and a clearing in your local community that should feel much nicer for you. And that rethink is going to give you options. It's, like if money wasn't a question or a condition, what would you choose to do with your life? I think these are the kinds of big questions that you might choose to allow yourself. Now, I also want to add in, Uranus is one of the rulers of your second house, and Uranus is in your 6th house to do with earning and working and managing your life. And Uranus here is really showing that the life as you have it needs to be upgraded. You're going to be anywhere where you are sticking to tradition and sticking to particular structures. That's all up in the air now. You've also got Saturn, the other ruler of the second house, and also the ruler of your first house in the fourth house. So it does feel like you are in a time of grounding your home and becoming an authority in your home, maybe being a bit more at home, and also changing the way you work in quite a radical way. So I think these are all very much linked. So I guess my advice to you here right now over the next 6 months is give yourself some time to make a bigger decision for yourself. Give yourself some time to redesign your life. If you're just kind of auditioning for a small part in the change of your life, you're missing the point here. You've got an opportunity to really change how you live and where you live and how you organize and structure your life. And that's going to have a knock-on effect with your self-esteem and the money that you're generating. I really feel that you're on a trajectory to turn your life in a very, very different direction. So I guess I think at the end of this, you should be open to miracles and open to surprises and see what comes up. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Hope that's helpful to you, Capricorn. If you would like to go deeper in your chart or even talk about your chart with me, then just invite me to work with you. All of my details are below on the Calendly link. But anyway, you have a brilliant time of this and catch up with you real soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Aquarius. How you doing? So this is your forecast taking you from the total lunar eclipse in Pisces that's just occurred at 4 degrees, right the way through to the annular solar eclipse, the first one of next year on the 6th of February 2027 at 17 degrees Aquarius. Now, this is going to be in your first house, which I think is kind of cool. Now, there's going to be, I think, a journey between these two eclipses, and this forecast is hopefully going to give you some guidance. Now, I'm using a Western tropical model for this, a whole sign model to do this forecast. If you use Placidus in your own practice with astrology, you might also find the Pisces forecast helpful too, just a heads up. So anyway, let's get cracking. The first thing I want to really appreciate for you is that your second house has just really cleared. It started clearing a while back. Like we had a sense that things were clearing last year when both Neptune and Saturn went into your third house, but then they both returned. And then what was really great was on Valentine's Day this year when both Neptune and Saturn were in a conjunction at 0 degrees in the sign of Aries. And I think that really symbolized a bit of a shift. But essentially since 2008, you've had either Neptune and Chiron, Neptune and Saturn, Neptune and Saturn and the North Node in your second house. I mean, you've had a lot of quite difficult and problematic planets there. And the second house is all about your value in life, how you value yourself, how you see your contributions in life, how you earn money. And so, you know, it would be completely understandable if you felt a little bit confused during this period of time. You've also had Pluto going into your first house. And so there's a lot of repatterning going on here that I'm really seeing, because Pluto in the first is really asking you to really consider the power that you have and to really regenerate your life and transform it. You've also had Uranus just going into your fifth house from the fourth. And that's interesting as well, because, you know, Uranus going through the fourth can absolutely turn it upside down. So to me, it feels like there's been a lot of emphasis in this part of the chart, really, you know, mostly in this part of the chart. And it's still continuing a little bit, but this is all about you finding yourself. These are about your personal foundations. And so what I think is in these last, however long it is, 16 years or so, there's been an uncertainty around money and an uncertainty around what you're doing. And maybe just a feeling of, yeah, maybe it's not my time. Maybe I'm a bit unlucky. It hasn't been that straightforward for you. So what I like about this particular eclipse, and I've called it the crossing because I really think it's leaving something old behind and moving into something very new and dynamic. I really see that you're leaving behind this old sense of your value. Anywhere where you've struggled to articulate it, where you struggled to put your finger on it, where you felt like you're not deservable for things, I think that is about to pass away. But the big question comes in, and that is, well, how are you going to build your value? Like, what has changed and how do you see yourself now? So I really see that there's this space, this clearing in your second house, which I think is leaving space for you to create something really quite brilliant. The second house is a place, well, the first and into the second house, I think of as a place where we become confident in ourselves, confident in who we are, confident in our body, and then we become confident about our value. And so we are like, this next 6 months, I would say, is you exploring your intrinsic value in life. And it's moving you back to becoming that value and radiating it out. In fact, I think on the 6th of February 2027, when you've got this solar eclipse in your first house, I think that's going to really mark a critical time when you see who you are becoming and really feel the journey that you've taken so far. So it's very, very special. So that's oriented you a little bit around your houses. So something else about this full moon eclipse that we've just had, and I spoke about this in part 1, which I released yesterday, and that is that it's got a strong sense of stepping into something. The asteroid Damocles right over the head of not just King Dionysus in the mythology, but, you know, Damocles' sword is right over the eclipse last night, suggesting that the next step in your path might feel a little bit overwhelming. It might feel like it's got a lot of extra responsibility, and you're a little bit scared of stepping into it, because when you step into the unknown, you have no idea about the fears that the troubles that can occur. It's like when you step into something slightly unknown and something greater, there's a lot more emphasis on your shoulders, a lot more responsibility. And of course, the Damocles sword can like drop straight on you. These big paths that we're stepping into have inherent dangers to them. So I also believe that this particular eclipse has probably made you feel a little bit rushed to stepping into something. Almost pressured. Now, I see that you're revaluing, and this particular lunar eclipse has probably pushed you against the wall. It's kind of cornered you, so you have no chance now to not revalue yourself. It feels like whatever life has been giving you right now, it's been almost forcing your hand to say, okay, I exist. Okay, I can take up space. Okay, I see, I do have value. It's not letting you hold on to the original stories. And it would be easy to hold on to the stories of not being worth it or not being good enough, because having had Neptune going through there for so long, and Saturn, and then the North Node, it really kind of grinds you down. There, Saturn and Neptune in particular together can, you know, if you fall foul of it, it can be really tiring and almost deadening. So I can understand if you're not ready to say, yeah, look at me, look at this value I bring in. It might feel a little bit awkward. But then again, you've also got Pluto that's come in the first, which is demanding that you stand in your power. So it's like you've had these two houses that usually work together quite well, you know, one building your confidence in yourself and then you building your value in yourself. They've been communicating very different messages. Pluto in the first is saying, stand in your power and get ready to change your power and transform. Whereas Saturn and Neptune have, if anything, created confusion about your value and your worth. And yeah, so what I see in this journey ahead from today right the way through to the 6th of February is that these two houses are starting to work together. You can't hold back that feeling now that actually you do have something to offer. You do have core strengths. and you're coming into a time of being able to express those much better, this journey is taking you into embodying your value, so much so that people start to feel it around you. They start to feel it, and then they start to react to you according to the value that you're feeling. And that's when you are coming into the becoming of your own power. This is the journey of you stepping up and stepping in. So I think this is quite an exciting little occurrence for you there, Aquarius. And I hope you're feeling motivated by it rather than scared by it. So if I was in your shoes over the next 6 months, I might think, what is it about me that I've wanted to demonstrate or develop? You know, what has felt out of reach because I didn't feel strong enough, or I didn't think I was worthy of the investment? All of these areas where you've been subtly putting yourself down, I think they're going to become obvious to you. They're going to be revealed to you. So I'm going to leave that there, Aquarius. I hope that's helpful for you. I really do see that this is a huge step forwards. And I don't want to talk you out of it. I want you to sort of like stand into it and feel really excited. So I'm going to leave that there. If you would like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, and let me sort of examine your chart and see where this power is taking shape and what the opportunities are, then all you need to do is just book into my diary. My Calendly link is just below, and it'll be a delight for me to help you with that. So anyway, lots of love, take care, and have a really great post-eclipse moment. Bye for now. Hey there, Pisces. This is your forecast taking you on a journey from last night's lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces in your first house, right the way back to the next eclipse that's coming on the 6th of February 2027. I've named these because I like to describe them and kind of name what I think they're doing. I really think that this one that's just occurred in your first house is about the crossing, like allowing us to move beyond maybe even a time of limits, a time when we just didn't think we were up to the job. It's moving us forwards into something different, more exciting, and potentially a bit more dangerous, but it's only dangerous because it's unknown. So I see this crossing as challenging us. So we had the full moon eclipse in your first house. We have the sun and Mercury in your seventh. But we also had this very tight T-square between the two of them to Uranus in your fourth house. Now, this causes quite a lot of disruption. Uranus in the fourth house is really trying to create a change, create a real sort of like dynamic shift at home and in your family, and in the way you see yourself at a very sort of quiet level. Uranus in the fourth house is bringing in a little uncertainty, potentially a bit of chaos. Like if you're really trying to hold on to your home and family exactly as it is, it feels like you're trying to almost brace it so it can't move and it can't breathe. But right now, it feels like your home and family are at a time when they need to naturally breathe, you know, when that in-breath and out-breath is letting a flow of energy happen and occur. And of course, the full moon in your first house and then the sun on the other side in the seventh, these are all angular houses where stuff starts to shift. So whatever situation you found yourself in, I think it's starting to shift in a really strong way. Now, the next thing I want to just share with you is about the clearing that I think is now mainly occurred. So if we go back to 2008 or around that time when Neptune came into your first house, he was there until the end of January this year. During that time, Chiron also came into your first house. Then later, Saturn came through your first house with Neptune still there. And then when you had Neptune and Saturn, you also had the North Node coming in here. Now, those three in particular are very, very strong, but not necessarily easy to cope with. Like the first house is describing how you see yourself, what you see your role and your purpose as being. It also describes what's going on in your body, what's going on with your appearance, your understanding of yourself, how you communicate who you are. But wherever Neptune goes, he is bringing us into a time of waviness in terms of how we see. Like it's uncertain, it's not clear. Many possibilities can be real. He brings us through the veils. He shows us lots of different things. Sorry, I heard one of my kids screaming on the trampoline then. That's why I was looking that way. He brings through different layers of perception. And so I think you've been in quite a long-term, I don't want to say confusion, but a slightly dampened version of yourself, because it has a long-term effect, that Pisces Neptune effect. It really brings in the creativity and the feeling that I have to live a life of soulful interaction. Neptune can be expressed at a really high level, but Neptune can sometimes bring a lot of disappointment in, especially when Neptune and Saturn were going through here. And so you've had a tough time. It's been tough. And then when you look out at the world, you see all the Virgos over here, and the people that you might partner, and they look like they've got their life sorted out, like they know the direction they're going in. And yet it's been so difficult for you to get clear about what you need. And so what's really great about this eclipse, now there's nothing in Pisces major that's really holding you down. This was the last eclipse. You've had a series of eclipses across the 1st and 7th house over the last 18 months. This is the last eclipse in Pisces. You're not going to have that really big energy coming anywhere near your 1st house for a really, really long time now. You've got definitely a good decade of clear energy ahead and more besides. So I think not only have we just had this eclipse, but you've also had this clearing that is giving you carte blanche to reinvent yourself, to have this really beautiful, soulful new start. And a new start for your body as well, where it feels like you've got agency over your body, like what's going on in your body. No more mysteries, no more confusion. Everything is getting really clear in your body. So that's nice. Now, where this is heading, the next eclipse is happening in your 12th house. And the 12th house is very much about the unconscious mind, but it's also where you rest and recover. It's also where you reinvent, using your imagination. It's where you might be creating with the powers of nature and God and the universe. It's a very, very private part of your chart. It's also a place where you let go of the reality around you and you start to drift into something a lot more magical. Now, that might not sound practical because I'm saying, oh, you're reinventing yourself. Oh, you're also letting go of all of the practical things. And obviously, we can't all do that. That's not always easy. But the emphasis is very much on creating a whole new story for you. So what I really see is happening is not only are you feeling clearer in your body and clearer in your mind and clearer in your appearance, so that you can redefine yourself, but you're also releasing a lot of the associations with your past identity. So this is a huge clearing that you're going through over the next 6 months. You're redefining yourself, you're releasing, and then you're transcending the idea of who you were. It really is like you're breaking up with the old part of yourself. Hence why I said the crossing, the crossing feels so apt. But where are we going? Well, you're coming into a time when your psychic energy is really up high. Your intuition, your ability to understand instinctive programs going on, errant programs going on in your mind, strong patterns going on in your mind. I think you're becoming really excelled in understanding human psychology, but most importantly, your psychology. I think in the next 6 months, you've got a beautiful chance to reprogram your mind. There's lots of technologies that you can use to do that, from hypnosis, NLP, timeline therapy, tapping, all sorts of different things. So I see that you're going through almost like an internal retreat so that you can release and transcend, but also that you are actively working to let go of things. It's not necessarily a time of dynamic change in as much as you're forging a new business and knocking on doors and shaking hands with people and making things happen. This is much more subtle. This is much more sleepy. It's not meant to be done on a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 schedule. You know, be easy with yourself. To me, this is almost like the imaginal cells of a caterpillar dissolving inside a cocoon. Now, whilst that might sound a little bit unnerving and a little bit painful, it's also the source of some really incredible magic. It's like you are changing shape and becoming, like coming out of these with your beautiful butterfly wings or whatever your new shape, size, look, attitude is. But it just feels like this moment of, like, I can't describe it. It feels like clarity going into losing your shape. Like you feel clear about letting go of the boundaries, and this new you is coming. This is very, very transcendent in a way that not many of the signs actually get to experience in this lifetime. This is very, very deep. So I don't know if that's helpful for you in understanding some of the flows for the next 6 months, but I hope it has been helpful in some way. If you'd like me to have a look at your personal private chart, then just get in touch. Book yourself into my diary. The link is below. It's a Calendly link. But have a beautiful post-eclipse season and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.